Hey guys, it is the Crow, formerly known as Piper Sweeney, your least favorite ginger, here with a storytime video. So, remember my pick-a-card reading where I joked that I was presenting as femme to cover as it? Well, actually that's exactly what I was doing, and I referred to myself as all gothed up. Yeah, according to some comments, I'm not special just for being non-binary, and my outfit was offensive to the real goths. Now, I already knew I wasn't special, but how foolish of me to forget that real goths have shunned the new goth fashion, even at its most creative, and a casual new goth look, such as this one, is completely unacceptable. And look at my eyeshadow, bright orange, to make the falsies I spent 10 minutes applying stand out on camera. I didn't look anything close to a panda bear. And I even had the nerve to neglect appropriating any occult symbols not relevant to my practice to look edgy. Please forgive me for thinking it was sufficient to have the triple moon tattooed to my vagina. I should have gotten a huge chest piece of Baphomet, giving to Satan in a field of broken crosses to prove my commitment to goth fashion. I am so sorry for my careless goth crimes. I'm going to delete my channel now so I can go die in a ditch with all the other normies. I'm sure people who have been following me on this channel for a long time know that I care very deeply about kissing the chalky buttocks of the goth elites. Elites, since you only exist on the internet, would you care to do me the honor and email me a photocopy of your feet so I can kiss them? I mean, it must have been hard for the elites, type those comments with their nubby skeleton fingers. So how noble of them to remind me that I can't be goth because I like Melanie Martinez. Unforgivable crime. I guess I'll just slip on my fish shoes and march off to report myself to the GIA so they can beam all my memories of being a goth thought as far back as 2003, long before you were even born, out of my head. That should take care of the lingering goth slang I sometimes toss around so carelessly. I should have known I could no longer pass as a goth after all, because bats no longer fly out of my ass when I fart. Goths are too shy to admit it, but that's how they can tell. So beware what you eat before going to the club. They'll know instantly. And you know what they do to posers. In all seriousness, these hate comments have left me kind of nostalgic, not necessarily in a good way. One of the biggest problems with the online goth community is to this very day a deadly combination of classism and elitism that scares newcomers off the scene. In order to have a thriving community, you need new people and you need change, like constantly. But goth elitists do not understand that, so when baby bats can't afford all the clothes they need right off the bat, or don't have access to them for whatever reason, instead of being accepted, they're turned down because they like Lady Gaga or whatever. It's all petty nonsense born out of insecurity. And honestly, it's the one thing that I do not miss about being a goth. Everything else was great, except that. I mean, when you look back at the way goths used to dress in the beginning, some of those outfits, they didn't exactly age like wine. As a matter of fact, I'd go so far as to say some of these outfits wouldn't even be considered goth if somebody wore them today. If goth didn't evolve at all since the 80s, the goth scene would be dead right now. And honestly, whether I'm a part of it or not, I really want the goth scene to thrive. And autistic as I may be, subculture needs to evolve with time, and that means change. Change keeps things fresh, especially when the backbone of subculture is based on music, literature, fashion, art, basically everything that makes life good, or, tolerable, whatever. If you gatekeep people by saying they have to rigidly only be interested in goth things and absolutely nothing else, you're setting an impossible standard that nobody even wants to achieve. It makes the goth community look uninhabitable. And what's sad is some of the more impressionable baby bats think that that's actually the way the goth scene is, and then they leave, never knowing how wonderful the goth community truly is. The elitists, they're just this loud minority who almost exclusively exists online. I have yet to encounter one in the wild in like all of my 29 years. And yet still, every time I get a comment like that, it's just as annoying now as it was 2 decades ago. It's horrible. Oh god. But believe it or not, none of that's why I left the goth scene. It's actually because of something far, far more infuriating than getting attacked online by insecure people who think they'll earn more goth points, I guess, by pointing the finger at their peers, which, by the way, it does not work that way. But that is a good way to be an outcast in your community. To be a snob, no one likes a snob, so thank you. Before we hop into this, let's give a few moments to this video's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community, and I've been a user since before they offered me a brand deal. There's no better place for lifelong learners who enjoy picking up new skills. Members will receive unlimited access to thousands of classes with topics ranging from arts to business to even the new age. It is the perfect place to foster your creativity. And with no ads to obstruct your experience and new transcript features, it's easier than ever to learn on Skillshare. And it's cheaper than art school ever will be at less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. They also have a lot of lifestyle classes I've been sleeping on, like Confidence for Creatives, 5 Exercises to Grow Your Confidence and Self-Care by Eugenia Washington. This class reminded me that there was actually a time when I did have a decent self-esteem, and it was not discarded overnight. It was something I was trained out of, meaning it's something that I can train myself back into with conscious effort. So, for my first exercise, today I decided to start by releasing my constant negative, judgmental voice. I mean, I seem to give everyone else the benefit of the doubt. Why can't I do that for myself, right? So I recommend Eugenia's class for her fun approach and creative exercises that will benefit anyone of any confidence level. This is because Eugenia frames confidence as a journey rather than a destination, and more importantly, as a skill you can actually acquire through actionable steps. It's a grounded approach to the law of attraction that I found very helpful myself, and if you're in the middle of a slump, I highly recommend you take this class. It's short, it won't take up too much of your time, so go ahead, save it to your favorites now. The first 1,000 people to click the link in the description will receive a free trial of Skillshare Premium. I am a teacher on there too, so go ahead and give me a follow. I plan on making new classes, I can't talk, when I'm done with the brand deal. Hope to see you there, and I hope to remake the class I have up, because you're not allowed to delete classes, and I just think I did a bad job. But anyway, let's back to the story time. I'm talking too much. Look, I admit I'm going through a phase right now, and it is not pretty. That's usually something you hear from parents about a teenager who's dressing goth, and it's something my mom said about me. But she was wrong. The phase is now. Welcome to my normal phase. I wear colors now. And for the past 10 years, it feels so wrong. But at least I can live vicariously through dressing my OCs up in cute outfits and sending them on adventures in Philadelphia, and then calling this roleplay log a novel and make money selling it to people. Yay! Except it flopped. Functional adult wearing color clothes. Serious queer author wearing color clothes. I keep making Melanie Martinez videos because you guys keep watching them. The old me liked Edgar Allan Poe, The Birthday Massacre, Elvira, Emily Autumn, Repo. The new me also likes these things. And pop art. Actually, I will start at the beginning. The very beginning, for people who are just landing on this channel. I am autistic, and my gender, while non-binary, has a little bit of fluidity to it. I feel like a girl, like, I don't know, maybe twice a week. Who cares? It's weird. Yes, this is relevant, I swear. It's boring, I know. But anyway, when I hit my teenage years in, like, 2003, 2 major things changed. The first was I started to feel feminine sometimes, but it wasn't stable. Because before, it was stable. I was gender neutral all the time. And I lacked the information that queer youth have today, so I didn't figure any of this out until much later on in life, like a couple years ago later on in life. And the second was I had a new special interest in the goth subculture. My gateway drug? Evanescence, of course. Don't worry. It's okay to admit it. You like Evanescence too. You don't have to call the GIA to cleanse you. It's been settled. The purists have collectively decided to pretend that there is nothing even remotely goth about Evanescence. And teenage me was effectively neutralized by elitists who shamed me to the point where I could no longer enjoy listening to Amy Lee's angelic layering because it wasn't goth enough. Put away your spathas and your scramasaxes. The war is over now. Rome has fallen. Evanescence is not a goth band, and goths aren't allowed to listen to it, yada yada. Go ahead, baby bats. Listen to whatever makes you happy. Just stay spooky. Don't let anyone f*** up your spook. I obsessively studied the goth subculture, their clothing, their music, their literature, everything, because, well, that's what an autistic kid with a special interest does. You know, autistic people have been the backbones of fandom since the dawn of the internet, so really this shouldn't surprise you. And no, I'm not calling goth a fandom. Calm down. Rome has been sacked. There's no more work to be done here. I mean only to express that a lot of the most hardcore goths that are still involved today are somewhere on the spectrum. And that autistic people are likely to study something with all of their passion. Anyway, what I discovered was that there was no clear-cut line drawn on what was and was not considered goth. It was largely subjective, so people were always fighting about it on message boards like Vampire Freaks more or less constantly. This made it infuriatingly difficult to research, not to mention everyone insisted it was about the music when it was blatantly obvious to me that it was about the clothes for most snobs. I say this because it was the biggest point of contention. After all, while the clothes clearly had roots in death rock, they were so far divorced from what goth originally was that it was clear that the subculture was constantly evolving. Meanwhile, some goths would immediately scoff at new subgenres of goth fashion, like pastel goth, cyber goth, industrial goth, and worst of all, the dreaded new goth, the bastard child of goth and hipster. And they would scoff at these new subgenres again, like no matter what music they listened to, because the fashion was different. And what I noticed when I went to these profile pages was that most of them were listening to the right music. They just didn't have the right clothes. Many goths, I find, actually lack an understanding of music and use clothing as a shorthand to express their love of music. This is as true now as it was then. Most goths are music fans, but not musicians themselves. At the very core of it, goth fashion should just be a fashion that the wearer uses to outwardly express their love of goth music. So it should be creative, subjective, and evolve with the music. Instead of letting the subculture grow, though, elitists would see the fashion straying from the roots and lash out. It's funny because all of the elder goths remember the early scene and acknowledge it's changed quite a bit, whereas bratty bats, as I like to call them, are bullying the baby bats on the internet when they themselves don't even realize that there are gothic roots in most of the mainstream things they dismiss because they have no respect for gothic literature, which is the influence of gothic rock, and have no knowledge of its themes, characteristics, blah 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 blah. Simmer down, you shits. No one gives a fuck that Snary Forever XOXO 69 spelled Susie Sue wrong, or that Gothics Girl 420 likes The Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm trying to vibe, god damn it. Sorry, I digress. Eventually I figured out why I was so obsessed. It was because I wanted to dress that way, because I liked those clothes, I liked the music, I liked the gothic literature themes, I like seeing beauty in sad things instead of just wallowing and being down on myself all the time. Voila, my goth awakening. Unfortunately, bringing this to catharsis was not so easy. It was 2003 or 2004, in the middle of nowhere. We had the internet, which was nice, but it wasn't the internet of today, and I was 13 years old. I had to do what my mother said, but I was unfettered because I had finally found something I truly loved and wanted to express myself. Hold on, hiccup incoming. Excuse me. My mother always hated that I never cared about fashion, you know, that I always dressed as a boy, so maybe, I thought, if I let her see me all gothed up, she'd be happy for me too. So I tried my best to emulate my favorite goth looks, but I only had one black shirt. I think it was part of a leotard or something, and one black skirt. This skirt was some hideous pleather thing. I put on some black tights, and I thought, well, this is the best I can do, I guess. Looking back, I should have done some DIY rips and shit, but whatever. I was in that dreaded phase where I was actually afraid to put holes in my clothes. Anyway, The shoes, I think, were Mary Jane's from my school uniform, but 17 years have gone by, my memory is hazy, and then I went on to the makeup. I didn't know how to do makeup, so I just smudged a bunch of black shit over my eyelids until I kind of looked like a panda, and I put on some mascara, black lipstick. I'm not even sure it was real lipstick. I think whatever I put on, it all came from a Halloween kit. It was hilarious, but I was trying my damnedest with what I had. Anyway, when I was satisfied, I ran to the family room, high off my special interest, screaming, "Look, Mom! Look at my outfit! This is what I want to be, except, better than this!" More baby doll, less something that I threw together for illustrative purposes, Her reaction? No! She wanted me to dress like a girl, but not that way. That was horrifying. Satanic. Still coming down from the special interest high, I shouted, "But Mom, look at my eyes. Don't they pop?" And she said, "No, they sink in. What I did was horrible. This is not how young girls express themselves." And that was the end of that. I let go and I obeyed my mother. Nah, that was only the beginning. Baby bats these days have no idea how easy they have it as opposed to previous generations. Oh my god. There are so many resources online now. Oh my god. Okay. We walked so elitist internet twats of today could run. As I've said previously, I live in the middle of nowhere, Appalachia, where I was born and raised. I have been here my whole life. I was lower middle class at the time, if that, really. The child support money didn't go to me, so I'd argue I was personally destitute. Our town didn't even have clean water. Still doesn't have clean water. Who am I kidding? Let alone a store to buy goth fashion in. There wasn't even a thrift store nearby, and even if there was a thrift store nearby, I promise I would not have found any pencil skirts or petticoats or nice vintage vests. Just old stuff from the mall that people wanted to get rid of. That's what I would find. My mother forbade me from buying clothes online, so that left me to just work with what I could find at JCPenney, or I could cross the interstate to the nearest decent mall an hour away. Said mall had a Hot Topic with a small selection of clothes that were goth enough, I guess, but not my exact taste. It was the age of trip pants, which, if I remember correctly, that was more of a rivet head thing, and I was more into baby doll and Victorian looks. Those romantic goth looks. I was into a lot of things, but anyway, some Hot Topic stores did carry goth clothes at the time, but not the one near me, because why would I be that lucky, right? Well, I mean, they had a couple of workable outfits, but anyway. Oh, and Hot Topic did have a bad reputation with the elitists, though all my friends loved it. There really weren't as many online resources back then as there are now on Goth DIY, so it was kind of up to how creative you were. That said, I tried sewing. I did okay for about an hour. Then the needle pierced through my finger when I was trying to thread the machine, and I had to pull the needle out of my finger with the hand crank, and I was cringing, and I still remember the sensation of my skin pulling a tiny bit upward with every crank presenting one more droplet of blood with... Oh my god! I'm sorry. I nearly passed out. I gave up on sewing, needless to say. So I would just buy whatever I could get my hands on that wasn't goth on its own per se, but when paired with the right makeup and accessories, baby doll goth look. I also made my own jewelry out of Sculpey clay, nail polish, and ribbons, aka the only things I could get a hold of. I feel another hiccup coming on. For more casual days, I'd pair a baggy black sweater with a mini skirt and some fishnets. I also had the tendency to buy these lingerie tops that were relatively modest, and I would wear them with a jacket as if they were an actual shirt. I paired that with Hot Topic skinny jeans that contoured my butt perfectly. Drove my mother insane. But I didn't give a shit. I was just a baby bat trying to find my place in the belfry. Or, another way of looking at it, I was an autistic kid who was trying their best to express their special interest in a situation where their true desires could not reach catharsis. So pretty much the only way I could express my love of my favorite goth things early on was through streaming music and drawing. I created tons of original characters, and each and every one of them was goth, except maybe like one or two normal characters I added because I felt like it was unrealistic for every person in my world to be goth. Looking back, it was my world. I should have just made them all goth because that's what I wanted. Whatever. I remember drawing these really imaginative outfits. I wouldn't go seek out references most of the time. The stuff would just pour out of my head based on things I had seen previously and loved, or things I thought would look nice, things I wished existed. Most of my work featured corsets worn on the outside, very decorated, lacy stuff, bony physique, largely probably connected to my eating disorder, I'd say. Dark cosmetics, like, ripped tights, staples. Historical clothing, but make it goth. And some zombie-like features, though, to be fair, a lot of my characters were literally zombies. I wanted to be a fashion designer when I grew up, but without having to sew. I don't think that would have worked out. So I didn't even pursue that, but I was extremely imaginative because I wasn't just trying to create a crowd-pleasing or a safe work of art like what I do now. I was just making what made me happy, and I miss those days in some ways because even though my body was trapped in that hellish environment, my mind roamed free. There were no other goth kids in that K-12 school, so I turned to the internet to make friends on websites like Vampire Freaks. And because the goth community was so full of outcasts, they all understood and accepted me immediately. Just kidding, I made no friends online. They all had something to prove, and the easiest way to do that was to dunk on the lesser goths, the baby bats. I wasn't goth, I didn't have all the shiny things a goth is supposed to have. Looking back, the whole thing has classist overtones. What it really boiled down to was, I was a poor person in a poor area with fewer resources. It was not possible for someone of my standing to be a true goth because I couldn't afford nice things, and what I could afford I didn't have access to because it was not local, as I've described previously. I unfortunately never realized this only mattered on the internet because there was no goth scene where I lived, no clubs or anything, and no one ever went on tour anywhere near where I lived. And even if they did, my parents wouldn't have let me go. Wait, I take that back. In college, I did get to see Wednesday 13, I think on my 27th birthday. It was great. But anyway, I didn't actually get to go to a goth club until I was 18, visiting my favorite city, Philadelphia, which, looking back, it's probably a good thing I didn't go to a club until I was 18. But yeah, it was nothing like what the internet made me think it would be like. There were tons of different goth subtypes there, goth sister types, and even people who were dressed like a normal. Everyone was accepted. No one was turned away because they were wearing an MCR t-shirt or because their whole wardrobe came from Hot Topic. The real world just isn't fucking like that. Of course, then again, in Philadelphia, I'm assuming no one's whole outfit came from Hot Topic because there's so much stuff over there. Oh my god! Take me to Philadelphia. Okay, anyway. The real world, it's just not like that. If you want to pull that snobby elitist shtick in the club, I hope you are wearing a mouth guard. Okay, but unfortunately, back on track with story time. The only goth scene I had access to was on the internet. I was, I think, 14 or 15 when I changed schools. AK got expelled from the last one, story time up on my channel. Pretty sure I was 15. And I quickly befriended the other alt kids at the public school. There were other goth kids there that were in the same boat as me, but things got messy because of a love pyramid, I guess? I'd say triangle, but it was more like Tina had a crush on Scott, who had a crush on me, and Tina also had a crush on JD, who again had a crush on me. Also, Scott and JD were friends until they weren't anymore, thanks to me. Love pyramid. Also, I wasn't interested in dating any of them. Tina wasn't my type, and JD and Scott were definitely not my type, if you know what I mean. Penises. Also, I don't actually remember any of their names, so I made up new ones for them. Well, anyway. So I ended up hanging out with the emo and scene kids instead, and it was like 2006 to 2009 too, so those subcultures, they were at their peak. Good for them, but I remained a goth kid because, that's where my special interest lied, and I wanted to be true to myself, even if it would have been easier to go emo. And now, a lot of my classmates, though, they did love my makeshift DIY look, and They loved that I was anorexic skinny, which was unfortunately all the rage back then. Oh, 2000s. And I vowed that someday I would leave this tiny town, get amazing tattoos, and I'd get a great job that let me dress however I pleased. And I'd have a little house on the East Coast with a garden where I practiced my magic in peace. My wardrobe would be amazing, and I would never let the goth in me die. Ever. So, what happened? Well, I started recovering from my eating disorder and most of my clothes didn't fit anymore. I no longer had a goth wardrobe, and I never actually got professional help for my eating disorder. So I didn't have a support system at all. And, my aforementioned alt friends had stopped talking to me, and, either we lost touch after graduation, or they labeled me as a fake because I didn't look cool anymore. And, I was wearing discount rat clothes because I couldn't afford goth fashion, and I was showing all these gross, vulnerable emotions because I couldn't get over my boyfriend dumping me over a misunderstanding and then refusing to hear me out, explain anything, or let me have any type of closure. At the same time, I fell deeper into poverty, and I was unable to find a job. So why couldn't I find a job? Well, the economy was already really bad in my area, but it got even worse because of the Great Recession that happened around that time. Not to mention my then diagnosed autism made it hard for me to connect with others. In my hometown, pretty much the only way to get a job was if you knew someone, and it's the same way now. And if you recall, everyone abandoned me. I didn't have any connections. Nepotism was not on my side. I didn't even get called for an interview for anywhere where I applied to, aka every single open position in town. I was that desperate. But my family convinced me it was my fault that I had no job. Me and that terrible goth wardrobe. And if I wanted to grow up and stop leeching off of them, the goth clothes had to go. So as sad as it is, I just kind of gave up on being myself. I didn't know I had autism, I didn't know my gender identity, I didn't know my sexual orientation, but I knew I'd never be able to afford the goth wardrobe of my dreams. And my coping mechanism from before, aka my eating disorder, was gone. So instead of puking my dinner, I purged by throwing away my goth clothes that I loved. I threw away almost everything except for a few sentimental pieces and, of course, my corsets. Those were an investment after all. I don't know where they are, just somewhere. I lost them when I moved into my dad's house, aka after my mom kicked me out of her house for being too queer. Shame, because I'd love to wear them on my OnlyFans. Shout out to my OnlyFans. Go simp if you wish. /OnlyFans ad. Anyway, so yeah, long story cut short, I went up a size, nothing fit anymore, my friends left me, my mom still didn't like me. All my previous coping mechanisms were suddenly gone. I couldn't find a job even after throwing away all my favorite clothes in an attempt to appeal to employers who wouldn't have hired me anyway, and I was frustrated and suicidal. Oh, and I was also cutting myself, and I haven't been happy since. Yay! Oh, and then I went through this phase where I thought my only way out of poverty was to garner the attention of a sugar daddy, and during this time I drank a lot, blew all my savings on clothes I didn't like, and listened to Born to Die, Paradise, and Electra Heart. Like, on loop. And while I still love those albums, by the way, those were some very dark times, and I was not being my authentic self at all. Though I have to laugh because most people don't realize that there's a reason I keep drawing Aretti over and over again. And it's not because she's my favorite character. I actually think she's a horrible person, though. You could probably say the same about all my characters, so I guess never mind. Even William is kind of a dick. Well, I guess Whitney is tolerable. I mean, she did make fun of a girl for having bulimia. Or was that already? I might have to look it up. Whatever, Sad Crow Man. We get the point. Stop talking about that stupid daydream world you call a book and tell us why you draw Aretti so much. Okay. It's because she was created specifically so I could live vicariously through her. It's exactly what I was doing when I was 13, except instead of making 2 zillion characters, there's just the one versatile character. It's kind of like, little girls playing with dolls, you know, like my OCs are my dollies. Comprendez-vous? Anyway, as you probably guessed, Aretti is the character who's on screen right now. I think it's technically pronounced more like Aretti, but I tweaked it to make it easier for Americans to pronounce, since most of us can't even pronounce Aristotle right. I mean, half the time I say Aristotle. What? So basically, Aretti's deal is that she is a goth insta-girl who inherited a multi-billion-dollar empire from her conveniently dead father. And because of that, she's like the ultimate wish-fulfillment character. Her personality is camp and rather upbeat, but she's also kind of a bitch, which is how I imagine anyone would be if they could have virtually anything they wanted anytime they wanted. Deep down, this is kind of her detriment as well, because she never had to learn to do anything for herself, and her serial-killing helicopter mom is dead now, leaving her alone to deal with her anxiety disorder and dyslexia, until she meets a totally mysterious older man who has no prior connections to her whatsoever. Fans of the book just vomited in their mouths a little and shed a single tear. And they feed off of each other in a mutually codependent romance. Also, violence! And that brings me to this moment, my sister ranting because she ran across some MB-phobic comments bashing me for not being goth enough because I don't look goth enough and I listen to Melanie Martinez. And everyone knows that goths can only listen to certain designated bands, and because I'm me, I couldn't resist looking for those comments. Oh lord, why do I do this to myself? Anyway, people will find anything to be mad about these days. I swear to fuck, if this channel wasn't my only source of income, I'd delete it, hawk all my things off on eBay, and start over again in the Swiss Alps. No internet connection, not a single person for miles. Trespassers will be greeted with warm milk and cookies, and then directed to my backyard enclosure to play with my pet. What is it, you ask? Why, my dear, it's a husky mix. And it's so cute, wagging its whittle tail. Fluffy butt. A husky mix, you say. What's it mixed with, you ask? Grey wolf. The dog-wolf hybrid suddenly shifts its body language. You hear a deep growl. And it's hungry, you realize. You turn around, but I've shut the door. Oh no! Come back! You scream. The fence is too high, and the door is locked. Even louder you scream, but Airlock the soundtrack 3/82 is louder. I cackle as I harvest your soul. At last! That makes a total of 10 elite goths to wander into my unassuming alpine cottage. When I put the final soul on my altar, the tribute will be complete. The goddess of goth will extract the goth essence of the 10 gothest goths into a vial, which I promptly drink, gothily. I'm transforming into the gothest bitch you've never seen. My clothes are blacker than Vanta Black, and all light is swallowed the second I step into the room. I'm so goth that you can't even look at me. People have tried, yes. Flash photography. Didn't work. Amping up the exposure in Photoshop. Nope, just pure pitch black. Look at you. Look at what you've done, elitists. You've created a monster. I hope you are happy with yourselves. I sure am. I've actually been practicing my evil laugh since I was 4. It hasn't been useful until now. I suppose that means I've actually been living my life wrong. Anyway, in all honesty, like sarcasm aside, will I ever go goth again? It's hard to tell. On the one hand, I'm clearly still heavily invested in the gothic subculture, judging by the amount of time I spend drawing my OC already, and also the fact that November 1st is the day I go shopping for discount home decor. It's when the Halloween items go on sale. Also, I DIY'd some goth furniture around my room. And obviously, if I consider this shit to be a lengthy phase brought on by an unfortunate set of circumstances, that means I want to get back to being myself again. But I do like my current wardrobe to some extent. It's like a mix of 90s grunge and a middle-aged man trying to pass as straight at the country club. When I put my wardrobe together, I did so in the most gender-affirming way possible while also being cost-effective. And there are a lot of things I like that are not goth. Because although some people would love for you to think otherwise, no one, no matter how goth they look, not even them themselves, bad grammar, excuse me, is so one-dimensional that they only like goth things. But whenever I present as femme, which is rare, I do prefer goth looks. Unfortunately, like I said, I threw out most of my goth clothes and accessories, and my ex-best friend Ashley stole my Demonia coffin heel hex boots. A transgression that still makes me angry to this very day, and we will absolutely have a lot of karma to work out in the next life. Sabotaged my relationship with my boyfriend? Nothing, that's forgiven. Said nasty things to me and about me, all forgiven. Owes me like $50 that she said she was going to use for bills, but she actually used it to buy a bunch of chicken nuggets. No crime here, all forgiven. Stole my favorite shoes of all time, which have now been discontinued. That is a fiendish crime against my soul, S-O-L-E, and it shall be writ on the Akashic records forever. All that said, I'm unlikely to be in the position anytime soon where I'm out buying clothes to please my femme side. That would get expensive fast, to be fair, and I'm trying to save up to move out of this town so I have a shot of living a life that's actually worth living, for once. My move-out date is May 24th for myself and a few necessities. Hopefully, I'll be able to save up money faster in a town with a better economy and thus higher wages. So then I can get a job and rent a moving van to grab the rest of my shit. Or maybe my channel will pick up and one of my videos will sail on the algorithm. Who knows? Whatever comes first. Oh my god, 40 minutes? Are you fucking kidding me? This video is gonna have to be trimmed down a little bit. Ideally, my femme look would be something akin to a witch that has crawled out of the bog to sell you some questionable ingredients, and then when you reject her, she's like, and then she just disappears into a flock of crows that surround you angrily before flying off, and you don't really know what that means, except clearly you're cursed now. That's the vibe I want to give. Anyway. But I don't see myself dressing goth very often while presenting as masculine because the goth fashion that I like, it feels very feminine to me. I don't know exactly why I have that gender association, but I do. So, I'd probably be more like a part-time goth, which most people would probably just think, oh, that's fine, that's just your Gemini moon, split personality, what do you know, but this is actually a big problem to a lot of people in the online goth community who see goth as a lifestyle subculture you must abide by at all times. To a lot of the people in the online goth community especially, who see goth as a lifestyle subculture that you must abide by at all times. Those people will not like me, and there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I care to do about it, because fortunately for me, the world still spins, even if they think I'm a dirty poser appropriating and defiling their precious classified. I mean elite subculture, whatever. I think what a lot of people don't realize about me is that what they see as my I don't give a f*** attitude actually comes more from a place of disapproval and confusion regarding how humans behave so immaturely and with such hatred, and how weird it is that their priorities are so wildly different from mine. Sometimes this is because of autism, sometimes because of poverty, sometimes both. Not long ago, I had to carry every drop of water I drank back up to my room because I couldn't afford a cab and we didn't have clean water. This chore generally took up an hour of my time every other day. Like every single other day. Yes, I drank an entire gallon of water a day. Don't judge me. Oh, and this chore was also agonizing in the summer heat. It's probably why I drank so much water, because I wasted so much energy carrying water. Anyway, when I told my father how hard this was on me, basically he was like, oh, that builds character, and I still wasn't allowed in the car because it made his then girlfriend upset that I was in the car but did not like her. Even though it was my sister's car, not theirs, but whatever. I'm just being bitchy now, ignore me please. And, I couldn't make friends very easily, or even effectively communicate with my own father in exchange for minor conveniences. It would have been like a 2-minute drive, but it had to be an hour walk, so, I did everything alone, the hard way. Survival itself required a lot of my time, my planning, my focus, and, I still put on a brave face, and I didn't nearly as much as I felt like bitching. Meanwhile, something as simple as a casual new goth look, which was, by the way, my attempt at the witchiest outfit possible, or, me not identifying with the gender binary, stupid shit like that will get people in a tizzy, even though it has no effect on their lives whatsoever. And on a larger scale, our planet is dying because we are wrapping it in plastic bags, etc. I'm not unbothered per se, I'm too busy to care about petty internet shit. Also, I'm stoned 90% of the time, that helps. So, basically, do I care about the feelings of elitist gatekeepers? I'm gonna have to say no. Wow, what a cheery ending. How about I end it with... I was not revving up for a hiccup. It just got... Anyway. I will wear what I want when I want. I will listen to what I please, love who I please, and identify how I please. And I am not responsible for how you feel about the way I live my queer-ass life. That's on you. No one has to be 100% goth 24/7. If you are so insecure that you have to come after me, a long-retired goth, just trying to live my damn life, then it is pretty clear to me that you are not secure in your own gothness, which is sad. Am I right, or am I right? Phew! That was just for the elitists and the gatekeepers. The rest of you are super cool. Please sub to my channel, love you. Big thanks to my Patreon supporters who make it possible for me to do this channel full-time, hopefully, if everything goes well. You can support me on Patreon to unlock HD art, early videos, exclusive vlogs, and also, in the $7 tier, since I wasn't doing much with it before, I decided to add extra videos. There's a pick a card reading up there that you can only watch on my Patreon. And I guess that's it. I don't like marketing myself. That's probably why I'm so f***ing poor, right? Anyway, that's it. Have a great day, and blessed be motherfuckers.